Zinc is so important for people over 50, and it's kind of underrated. It's not getting the attention that it deserves. Everyone wants to talk about calcium. They want to talk about potassium. They even want to talk about magnesium, which is awesome because they should, but zinc isn't getting the right attention. Like, zinc is so important for gene expression, for our genes to really express so that our body can rebuild properly. It's important for the synthesis, for the storage, and for like even the action of what are called peptide hormones. So insulin, testosterone. Anyway, we'll break it down, but specifically for people that are over 50. After this video, check out Thrive Market. They're today's video sponsor. They are an online membership-based grocery store that makes it super convenient. So don't have to go to the grocery store to get your stuff. You just click of a few buttons and have stuff at your doorstep. But the cool thing is, you can sort by different diet type. You can have everything all in one place. So like if you're doing, let's say, paleo, or maybe you're wanting to go vegan and you wanted to sort by foods that fit that category, you can literally just like check a box and it's gonna filter those foods. So it just makes shopping for specific kinds of foods and diets and things like that much easier. Then it's just at your doorstep in a couple of days. So the cool thing is, there is a link down below that'll save you 25% off your first order, plus you get a free gift. But you have to use that sponsorship link down below in the description to claim that. So check them out after this video. Okay, the number one thing I want to focus on, and I do think this really is number one, cognition. Okay, after age 50, I think people really do start paying attention to cognitive decline. I think people really pay attention to it. I pay attention to it in my 30s because I'm all about cognitive performance, but I feel like it's gaining momentum. Now, zinc is super critical for cognitive function. Most of the zinc that is found in our brain is found in the cerebral cortex. That is the thinking part of the brain, which indicates that, wow, if it's concentrated there, it must be kind of involved in, well, thinking. There's a study that was published in the Journal of Neurophysiology that took a look at zinc, and it found that zinc is required for what is called glutamatergic function. Okay, glutamatergic function is basically helping regulate the effect of glutamate. In our brain, we have glutamate and we have GABA, and they're kind of opposing forces. Glutamate is what triggers like the proper stimulation of the brain, whereas GABA kind of stimulates more relaxation. It's always a delicate balance of the two. So zinc is in the presynaptic vesicles of these glutamatergic neurons. So that means without zinc, these glutamatergic neurons can't necessarily do their job as well. Zinc ends up being involved in the storage, in the release, in the uptake, and the actual action of glutamate. So it's pretty darn important, okay? Now, there was also a study that was published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. This one found that the cognitive function of elderly individuals that had a zinc deficiency was significantly lower. Okay, now a lot of this is kind of correlation. We have some mechanistic action and some sort of correlation doesn't equal causation study, but let's look at some more hard proof. Okay, this study was published in the British Journal of Nutrition. So this was a randomized blind crossover design study, which is one of the best studies that you can do. Okay, it took a look at zinc supplementation in 387 individuals between the ages of 55 and 87 years old. They used what is called the Cambridge Automated Neurophysical Test Battery to measure sort of how their thinking was, their memory, everything like that. Okay, so they measured them at baseline, they measured them at 3 months in and 6 months in 3 different categories. Placebo, okay, so no zinc, 15 milligrams of zinc, and 30 milligrams of zinc. The results were pretty interesting. When zinc supplementation was in place, there was an increase in spatial working memory. This is sort of like the RAM in your computer, okay? It's like RAM memory. It's how much the brain was able to kind of deal with at one time to be able to randomly access it to make quick decisions. So having that increase in spatial working memory is very good indicator of how the brain is operating. So clearly zinc plays a role there. So it might be worth testing out a little bit. Okay, now this next one is appetite. And I understand this sounds crazy because everyone's trying to like reduce weight and all this stuff. But a lot of times the mineral and micronutrient deficiencies that happen in people that are over 50 are a result of them not eating as much. Okay, the taste buds change as you get older, and that's a fact. Okay, so that means that you're not able to get the same satisfaction from, say, even vegetables or things like that you would. That's why you might find yourself salting your food more or craving sweet things more. It's a normal response. Well, it turns out that zinc is involved in taste acuity as well. Turns out that when zinc levels were lower, taste acuity went down. So it sort of attenuates that. It makes that even more, or accelerates, I should say, makes it even more intense. But zinc is also involved in what is called neuropeptide Y, which is what kind of signals in the brain for us to get hungry at the right times. So if you have a decrease in that, maybe we're not eating when we should be eating. And I'm not saying that you should eat more as you get older, but you definitely should be leaning into the veggies and leaning into the protein to maintain that muscle so that you can kind of have a healthy metabolism as you go forward too. Now the big one. Now I know this is specific for men, but it's still very important. I think women should listen too. Testosterone. Okay, now there are a couple different angles in which zinc is so important with testosterone. Okay, so this first study was published in the journal Nutrition. It found that for 6 months, restricting dietary zinc, led to a significant decrease in testosterone after just 20 weeks. So just restricting how much zinc was coming in the diet had a profound effect on testosterone. But then they found that zinc supplementation for 6 months in those that were deficient in zinc led to an increase in testosterone from 8.3 nanomoles up to 16 nanomoles, almost doubling testosterone just by adding zinc to those that are zinc deficient. Okay, definitely important there. But just because that situation is at play doesn't mean that it's a biologically active form of testosterone. People get confused. They think just because my testosterone levels have increased, it's magically going to do its job. Well, not necessarily. There's a study that was published in the journal Frontiers of Physiology, and it found the hypertrophic effect of weight training, so the hypertrophy, the muscle growth that comes from weight training, was not necessarily dependent on testosterone levels. So higher levels of testosterone did not necessarily constitute an increase in muscle growth. What did was the density of the adrenergic receptor. Okay, that adrenergic receptor receives the testosterone. Okay, so if the adrenergic receptor is better at receiving testosterone, then that influenced how much muscle growth there was, not testosterone itself. So it looks as though the adrenergic receptor might be more important. So there's a study that was published in the journal Molecular Pharmacology that demonstrated that zinc positively influenced the adrenergic receptor to be more receptive and have a stronger affinity for testosterone and possibly other hormones as well. So you see, we're coming at it from a double whammy. We saw that testosterone levels, serum testosterone levels increased with zinc, but then we also see that the adrenergic receptor affinity for testosterone increases. So we potentially have a double whammy. So zinc seems to be very important for testosterone function. This next one is bones. Now this one kind of frustrates me a little bit because so much attention gets driven to calcium, even vitamin D, even other minerals, but zinc isn't really talked about with bone formation. Okay, zinc is very important when it comes down to osteoclasts. So zinc inhibits the formation of these osteoclasts. Osteoclasts, it's hard to say, break down bone. It's part of the recycling process within the body, but if we have overactivity of that, then bones break down. It happens as we get older. But zinc is also very important for the formation of osteoblasts, which help form bone. Okay. Now, again, like we've mentioned before, zinc is a catalyst for a lot of things. It's a cofactor with a lot of things. So zinc is a cofactor in proper bone formation too, because zinc combines with fluoride to allow bone crystals to form, which allow bones to get stronger and, again, can maintain bone integrity as we get older. So very important, along with, of course, the calcium you're paying attention to and whatnot. And then the last one, which is very, very, very important, but I still have to be careful with how I talk about it with YouTube these days and just with the internet these days, but zinc's effect on the immune system. Very important for T cells to do their job properly. There was a study that was published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, took a look at 65 elderly people out of nursing homes, and it found that when they gave them 30 milligrams of zinc per day, they had an improvement in the number of T cells as well as the function of those T cells. Now, T cells, in case you don't know, are involved in the immune system activity, right? They are things that go out and actually attack pathogenic things that need to be attacked. We also have to remember that during an immune system attack, zinc influx is very important for the proper T cell function, okay? For T cells to do their job and not just run rampant and just go after whatever, okay? So zinc can help sort of corral it so it's doing its job right. And now there's some interesting evidence that's demonstrating that zinc is also involved in proper antibody formation after B cell activation. So it could play a longer role in making sure our immune system is doing what it's supposed to do. Obviously, these are things that come into play if we're eating a wide diversity of foods and if we're getting the right minerals in. But as time has gone on, especially as we get older, we run the risk of not getting the diversity in food and minerals that we should be getting in. So I do think the occasional supplementation of zinc is warranted. But you really need to weigh it out with how much zinc you're getting in the way of foods, do a little research there, and possibly start small and see if you notice any improvements, especially when it comes down to the testosterone function, because that's something you could definitely feel, as well as the cognitive function. I think you'd feel relatively quick if you were to play around with it. As always, keep it locked in here on my channel. I'll see you tomorrow.